I can teach you how to flog. I can teach you how to spank. I can teach you kinky things. I can teach you how to breathe erotically with your partner. I can teach you how to eye gaze and slow down and connect. Welcome to Follow Your Heartsong, where we reclaim pleasure, break taboos, and awaken to our deepest desires. I'm Rose Heartsong, bringing you raw, unapologetic conversations on sex, spirit, and self-liberation. Let's dive in. Hello out there in Laguna Beach. This is Follow Your Heartsong with Rose Heartsong, and you're listening to KXFM, Laguna's community radio. And you guys, I'm just so incredibly grateful that I get to have a voice here and speak, and all the people behind the scenes that are making this happen. Huge shout out to them. Huge shout out to all the volunteers on this incredible radio station that are really just showing up and giving to the community. So grateful to be part of that community and really excited to be here tonight. So thank you for being here. This show is about sex, spirit, holistic health, the taboo, baby. We talk about things that society sees as taboo, and I'm really excited to dive into this topic tonight. I'm always excited to be diving into the topics here, and each one is just a part of my heart. It's my last name's Heartsong, and I feel like it's been a affirmation for my life to share my heart song, and that's why I'm here to share it with the intention that hopefully me sharing my heart song will light you up and have you out in the world sharing your heart song so that we can create absolute beauty in this world, because it's time. Like, I'm over all of this destruction and chaos and judgment and hate and anger and frustration. Like, it's time that we're living our best lives and we're lit up and thriving and loving every moment and just feeling so incredibly grateful. So that's why I'm here, to spread a little bit of that message. I hope it impacts you. I hope you feel inspired from this show. And I'm so incredibly grateful that you're showing up and listening and going on this journey with me. So a lot of people ask me, what is a sex coach? What does that mean? What are you doing? And a lot of the times they're thinking that I am in the room having sexual relations, or not that I'm having sexual relationship with my clients, but that I am watching them in the act of sexuality. And that is not ever really what happens at all in any way, shape, or form. It's really about me providing a safe space for you to go through your own sexual development journey. And for those of you who are listening, I believe you most likely, if you're listening to the show, have been on some sort of journey of self-development, of development of self, some sort of spiritual practice, some sort of elevation, maybe personal development, maybe holistic health. I don't really know what your journey is. And sexual development has a tendency to be like the scariest thing to do. The last one that we do, or the last one we get to. A lot of people get into personal development first, or usually therapy, then personal development, and then they get into spirituality. And there's a huge awakening of spirituality and consciousness on this planet right now, which I'm so grateful for. And also, I believe a lot of people leave sexuality to like the back. It's like it's on the back burner, and the development of sex and their sexual energy. And I see a lot of spiritual people and a lot of people who are doing the work and showing up and developing themselves and doing plant medicine ceremonies and evolving and speaking the language and being conscious and aware. And yet they have a lot of trauma around their sex and their sexuality. There's a lot of trauma still very, very alive. And that breaks my heart. And I believe we get to evolve it and alchemize it. And it's really a big form of shadow work. I don't know if you guys know what shadow work is, but shadow work is the concept of really going into the psyche and finding the parts of ourselves that we don't like, right? The parts that we beat ourselves up about, the parts that we judge, the parts that we resist, the parts of ourselves that they're, I don't like that. And we are honestly our own worst critic ever. Come on. Would you talk to the people that you love the way you talk to yourself? Most likely not. So sexual development has a lot of trauma, and a lot of trauma is stored in the body. It's stored in the nervous system. It's stored in the genitals. It's stored in the reproductive system. It's stored in different elements in different ways throughout the body in specific traumatic ways. Sex usually has trauma. I'm not going to use the word trauma. Shame. I'm going to use the word shame. Sex has shame attached to it majority of the time. And because it's cloaked in shame in our world, it is shoved to the back burner. It's a big, dense place. And unfortunately, we live in a society where women aren't speaking their voices. They're not sticking up for themselves because it's scary too, really. And women have been controlled by men, their bodies and their sexuality for a really long time. And we've played along with that game. And I'm over that, honestly. It's time that we use our voices and we're loud and clear and direct. And men have extracted, like they have had ownership over our bodies for a really long time. And it really, let's just be real, right? Like it's still happening right now. Not in California, but across the country, women's bodies are being owned by the government and by laws and by rules and regulations. And it's really, really heartbreaking. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's very controversial and it's not something I'm taking on today. And I am fully pro women having sovereignty over her own body. That is something that I very much stand for. And in sovereignty over her own body, part of sovereignty over her own body is using her voice and standing up and being clear and direct and honest and straightforward. And not using sex as a way to manipulate or get men to do what they want. We have been taught to do that, and that's not okay. In my book, we throw our sexual energy around a lot, and we can be very messy with it. And a refinement of sexual energy gets to happen with women so that we can be fierce with our energy in protective and discerning. I don't know if the word fierce is a good word. I don't know about protective because that's what we've been doing and it's not working. But discernment, not sleeping with somebody that your body isn't 100% yes to, and not doing things out of obligation, but using a clear no. And then also the men get to hear those no's and they get to be in relationship without the expectation of sex without consent. And when I don't mean, I'm not talking about rape, not consent. That's horrible, horrific. Don't ever do that. And I'm talking about the nuances of a man showering a woman with attention and adoration and desire with the intention of getting something, aka sex, getting into her pants, getting off inside of her. Sometimes I'm a very attuned person in my dating life. I can feel if a man is wanting to have sexual relationships with me because he's had a stressful day and he literally just wants to get off and he wants to get off inside of my body. It's like a dumping ground for energy. And I'm very fierce. Like a lot of people think because I'm a sex coach and I talk about things taboo and I'll try it all. Like I am so open-minded and so curious and so love exploring the realms of sexual development and sexual taboo experiences. And I'm fiercely, completely sovereign with my sexuality. And I have fierce boundaries. And nobody, so attuned boundaries. My boundaries are so attuned to the frequency of the man and what he's doing to his body and taking care of himself and nourishing himself, because I become an energetic dumping ground. Like even if the energy of ejaculation, even if it's not inside of me, it's it's coming into my frequency or on top of my body. And though I love that with the right man, I have to be very discerning about what energy I receive in. And that's what I encourage. And then also, man, being in adoration of a woman's body and her pleasure and slowing down and being present with every sensation in the body is so incredibly important, and being attuned to the frequency of the woman, so incredibly important. So if you're like, what are you talking about? This is so advanced, or you're crazy, or I don't understand what's happening. These are the things I teach with my clients, is how to be more attuned, how to slow down, how to use your voice, how to be clear about what kind of energy you want allowed in your frequency, in your body, in your spirit, in your soul, in your heart. And really being discerning and also intentionally stoking turn on energy. And then intentionally stoking the fire of arousal, because a lot of people don't do that. The majority of the population of our planet, not everyone, but the majority, we are literally subs to their sexual energy. They're owned by their sexual energy, and their sexual energy drives them. And they make a lot of decisions that are not empowering based on the energy of their sexuality driving the show. And I believe when you go through a version of sexual development and you develop sexually, you become sovereign owners of your sexual energy, and you can take it and you can use it as a fuel, and use it as a power, and use it as a creative tool, and use it as a refinement, and use it as a way to connect with God and source and creator and the most high. And you can use it to channel and transform and release grief and release trauma. And it is one of the most powerful hidden superpowers in your body. And you gotta do some shadow work, deep, sometimes really intense shadow work to get to that bliss. And that is scary for a lot of people. And that is why it gets put on the back burner. So those of you who have done sexual development, I want to say congratulations, because it's brave of you. And every time I get on a call with a potential client, even if they don't sign up, just like I offer free consultation calls for those of you who are interested. You can go to my website, roseheartsong.com, and book a free call with me, and we can have a chat. And in all honesty, like, the people that just show up for that consultation call, I am impressed with. I am so incredibly impressed and inspired by every person that is curious to develop sexually, to learn how to have a relationship with their sexual energy, to be the master of it, to craft and create and design a relationship with their bodies and their pleasure and their desire in a way that works for them. And that is what I'm about. In a way that they are not harming anyone else or harming themselves, and they're standing in their power, standing in their truth, standing in their yes, standing in their turn on, standing in their oh my goddess, and creating beauty through sexual development, right? Like when I'm having really, really good sex. So there was a moment in my self-pleasure journey where I had to get radically honest with myself. I had to stop touching myself in the way that, honestly, if somebody else touched me like that, I'd be so freaking annoyed. Too fast, too rough, definitely too disconnected. And I realized I had been bypassing me. The crystal wands and dildos from Yoni Pleasure Palace became a part of my sacred turning point. These tools invited me to slow down, to soften, and to make love to myself. Instead of just going through the motions, I got to de-armor the numbness, the pain, the tension in my vagina. And what I found underneath? Presence, pleasure, deep devotional connection to my own body. These aren't just toys. They're healing allies. And they're nothing like plastic. The energy, the weight, the intention, it's a completely different experience that awakens something ancient and sacred within me. And it can do this for you too. My orgasms are deeper, my body feels alive, and my relationship with my own pleasure, it's completely transformed. So if you're ready to reclaim your sensuality in the most beautiful embodied way, I invite you to explore them for yourself. Visit yonipleasurepalace.com and use the code Rose Heartsong, ROSEHEARTSONG, at checkout for 10% off your first order. Your body is sacred. Your pleasure is your birthright. Treat yourself like the divine lover you are. Now let's get back to that episode. And have this like erotic journey with my body, not with the intention of having an orgasm. So many people self-pleasure with orgasm as the goal. They like literally go straight to the genitals, get off, have an orgasm, go to sleep, right? And they're not touching other androgynous zones. They're not touching different parts of their body. They're not activating pleasure within their own body. And then they get frustrated because their partner is not touching them the way they want and pleasuring them the way they want to be pleasured. And yet they're not pleasuring themselves the way they want to be pleasured. So that's where we start. That's why I start with my clients in the first month. We start with self. We start with taking away the story that people outside of them are supposed to pleasure them the way they want to be pleasured. Because usually, honestly, the majority of people, especially ones that are working with a sex coach, they don't know what they want. They don't know what they desire. They're clear on what they don't want. But then if you get so focused on what you don't want, you're going to create more of what you don't want. As Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows, right? So if you're focusing on what you don't want, you're putting energy into it, you're creating more of it. But the majority of people in the world have a hard time getting clear on what it is that they desire, especially around the realms of sex. So the first month, I get to know you. I get to see where your nervous system is. And when I say that, it's sex follows the nervous system. So you can only go as fast as your nervous system is regulated. If your nervous system is really dysregulated, we're going to have to slow down and really regulate your nervous system. So that can look like breathwork exercises. We can do sacred bath journeys with rose petals and bubbles and like sounds and music and self-touch, like not with the intention of having an orgasm, not with the intention of getting off, but just touching your body and really connecting, breathing, getting clear on what your erotic blueprint is so you can understand parts of yourself that turn you on. And your erotic blueprint is your love language when it comes to sex. So a lot of people know of the 5 love languages. If you don't, they are touch, quality time. The physical touch is the first one. Physical touch, quality time, acts of service, gifting, and words of affirmation. And like an example is my love language is physical touch and acts of service. And I love to give acts of service, and I also love to give quality time, but I like to receive acts of service. I also love physical touch as well. And since my spine injury, it's been a little bit more challenging for me. But I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes people give their love language and receive love language differently. And if you don't know what your love language is and you're trying to love somebody and you're loving them by telling them words of affirmation and that means nothing and they want you to do an act of service, they're not going to feel the love. Same is with your sexual blueprint. And this is invented by Jaya. You can go take a quiz online. It's called the Sexual Blueprint. I think just Google that and it'll come up for the quiz. Or I can put it in the show notes too. And what it'll do is it'll show you what your erotic blueprint is or your erotic love language is and how you get turned on. So we dive into that first. The first one is sexual, and that is what the majority of the planet is expected to be. We're expected to want to get down anytime, no matter what, just go for it. We get it from porn, really. And then there is and they all have like their light side and they all have their shadow side. So the light side of the sexual is they're really fun and playful and they're flirty and they like a lot of physical touch and hands-on and they're always ready to go and they're always want it and they're like craving it all the time and they love to be in the sexual energy. The shadow side is a lot of times they're very much about genital penetration. They can get really needy with sex. It's all about quantity a lot of times instead of quality. They get needy when it comes to sexuality. And that's what majority of the planet is programmed that they're supposed to be like. And there's 4 other types that get left behind. And there is the energetic, which I think is the one that is the hardest to have sex with when it comes to sexuals and energetics. There can be like the most challenging because sexuals are just like get in and go. And energetics, they get excited and aroused by the idea of sex, like the erotic turn on of it, like the texting and the flirting and the potential of it and the build up and the possibility and the thought. But they don't, which is fun, and they're really good flirts and really like playful and sensual and not sensual. I'll go into that in a minute, but like it's a fun place to be into, right? It's flirty and turn on and that erotic frequencies in the air. Like I'm feeling it just now as I'm talking about it. And their shadow side is that they sometimes don't actually want sex. They can be teases, they can be not clear, or they can become like shut down when actual physical sex is happening, or frustrated and not able to communicate. And they're very opposite of sexuals. And then there's sensuals, which these people are the ones that like the bubble bath and the lighting, and they want to be clean and shaved, and they want rose petals, and they want the smells to be perfect and the lighting to be perfect and the energy be perfect and slow and beautiful and amazing and super romantic, which is so sweet. And then they have their shadow side, which is like they shut down unless it's perfect. They're perfectionists when it comes to sexuality. And they get, like the energetics and the sensuals can both be stuck in their way sometimes when it's their desire. They want it their way. They can be a little bit, all people can be self-centered, let's be real. But they kind of get shut down to other sexual blueprint types. And then there is kinky, which is what I am. And that's one of the reasons I talk about things taboo and talk about on the radio live about sex on KXFM, Laguna's community radio. I am sharing with the world about my self-pleasure rituals and my journey. And that really does tie into my blueprint because I like things that are taboo. I literally get turned on by the idea of taboo. So even though the first couple of radio show episodes, my heart was pounding and I was so scared talking about my sexuality on the radio, there was a part of me that was turned on by that because it was taboo. And I like things that are taboo. And taboo can be anything from like doing a doggy style all the way to going and hanging out in a dungeon and anywhere in between. Whatever is taboo for you, that is what it is. And for me, I really like to have different sensations and different varieties of experiences and try new things and get creative. And I like to go to sex parties sometimes, but sometimes I don't. Like right now, honestly, y'all, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm celibate right now in this moment because I've chosen to be, because I'm sexually sovereign and based where I'm at in my life right now and based on what's going on, that is what is in alignment for me right now. And sexual sovereignty, being a sex coach and saying I am celibate, that is me having control over my sexual energy. That is me choosing to refresh my sexual flow and use my sexual energy for creativity, which has been really, really, really awesome and super inspiring. And it's taboo for me to be a sex coach that's celibate right now. I don't know how long I'm going to be celibate for. I don't have a date or anything. By this day, I'm going to do 6 months or 2 months or whatever. Like, it's just whatever feels most alive for me in my life. I'm not shut down sexually, though. I'm definitely not shut down. It's just where I'm at right now, and I'm honoring that. And that's taboo, right? That's taboo. There's all forms in taboo. I have a couple of my clients actually going to DomCon this weekend, which is a dominatrix convention in Los Angeles, which is really taboo and tons of kink experiences. Those are some of my work, what do I call it? Homework assignments or pleasure work assignments, really. It's pleasure assignments. I don't like the word pleasure work. What is that? Pleasure assignments is, and that's only if their nervous system is ready for it. If it's a yes for them. I never encourage things that aren't a yes. And then let's go back. There's one more. I almost forgot. Oh no. And these ones actually, interestingly enough, get forgotten a lot, is the shapeshifter. And the shapeshifter is a little bit of everything. They're sexual, they're kinky, they're energetic, they're sensual, and they have all of the 4 flavors, and they need variety. They need all the different varieties to feel fulfilled. And one of the things that's really good is they can like really meet a lot of needs for their partner. But the shadow side is they get really resentful because their sexual needs, their sexual creativity needs get forgotten, because then they go just into the blueprint of their partners. A lot of times if their partner is not a shape shifter. So those are the sexual blueprint. We work with those a lot because it helps to remove the shame. And in removing the shame and going, hey, actually, like, I'm not doing sex wrong. I'm just not understanding that I have a certain way in which I'm turned on, and I'm not able to communicate that clearly with my partner in a way that we both win and we both feel inspired. And so that is a huge piece that I have people start with when I start working with them. And then with the women, I have them read the Queen's Code. So I highly recommend reading the Queen's Code. I think I talked about it on this podcast or radio show before, but if I haven't, it's by Alison Armstrong, and it's all about communication with the masculine. A lot of times women are like, oh, I told him this, or oh, I told him that, and he's not listening to me, and blah, 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 blah. The truth is, you're not speaking his language, and he can't hear you. And we can get resentful and frustrated as women and go, oh, he should speak woman, or why do I have to learn how to speak man to have him hear me, which I've heard a lot. And the truth is, if you want to be supported and you want to have good harmony with men in your life, learning how to speak their language is pretty empowering and pretty supportive and pretty awesome. And I highly encourage you to learn how to do it. I've read that book 17 times. Yep. 17 times. That's how many times? A lot of times. Because every time I was not communicating to men in a way that was nourishing for me, I would read it again. There was education in that book, and maybe one day I'll get the author on here. That would be so cool. I'm going to pray for them. Anywho, and then for the men that I work with, because by the way, I love working with couples. It's my favorite, especially couples who've been married for a long time, have a solid foundation, and they're bored in the bedroom and they're frustrated. And they know that if they are not going to hire a sex coach or see therapy or do something about the staleness in their relationship in the bedroom, their relationship's not going to last. And so that's usually who I work with. I love working with men and women. I love having that balance. I love working with both energies. It's just so fun. And with men, I have them listen to The Way of the Superior Man by David Dieta. You can actually get a free audio on YouTube. So it's free, just so you know. So every man in the world should listen to it. But it really teaches men how to be that anchor and that solid foundation in the frequency of the chaos of the feminine energy. And really, a lot of times at the beginning, the chaos of the feminine energy is what inspires turn on with men. And it activates them and inspires them, encourages them. But as time goes on, trust factors, hurts, build up, issues come up, and then they get lost in the chaos of the feminine energy. And then when they get lost in the feminine chaos, we even get more lost. And so we lose that polarity, and in losing that polarity around desire and sex, we stop we don't want each other anymore. And so The Way of the Superior Man really teaches men like how women's bodies work, how their hormones work, how their emotions work, and how to be anchors and pillars of strength and power and kind of like stand strong in the eye of the storm. And when you do that, men, we love it. When you can create safety in the chaos of our nervous systems, when we are like having a moment and you just like anchor in that frequency of grounded masculine presence, it is so hot and we so want you and so desire you in those moments. But if you get lost in our chaos and overwhelmed by it, it's not sexy. Just gonna be honest with that one. So I have those too. I have women and men start learning how to track their cycles, to use that in sexuality, because there's certain times of the month that women are turned on, like ovulation. There's certain times of the month where sex is actually should be taken off the table, not an option. And then men don't need to take it so personally when they're turned down. And they can be like, oh, she's on this part of her moon or this part of her monthly cycle. That means she's probably not that turned on. Then it's not a personal attack. So we learn about that. I have some pleasure work assignments. There's watching Sex, Love, and Goop on Netflix, or The Principles of Pleasure on Netflix, or How to Build a Sex Room. I am giving you guys so much free coaching right now. I hope you please take it and apply it to your life, because I charge people for this information. So you're getting it for free. If you want to work with me, I'm so there to support you, because we can go super dive deep. But I just want you to know, and part of the coaching is I hold you accountable to doing it. And these are a lot of practices that I teach people as pleasure work assignments. I have women do a sacred self-pleasure ritual where they adore themselves and worship themselves and go into an experience, what I was talking about before, of erotic play with their own bodies and getting curious, especially with your blueprint. It's really fun to play with erotic turn on with yourself, with your own blueprint, so you can understand the blueprint and what lights you up. I also, depending on what's most alive for the couple, will go through sacred rage rituals. We'll talk about king and queen worship. King and queen worship is, what happens a lot with couples is they get resentful over time. It's one person wants sex more than the other, and they get frustrated, right? There's resentment on the person who doesn't want sex and frustration with the person who does. And so there's an imbalance, and usually it's just because they're not speaking each other's blueprint or sexual turn on language. And so I do a king or queen worship, which I learned through my sex coach certification with that sex chick. And this is really when you take time for your partner. So the king worship is all about the man. And that evening, by the way, I know you're going to hate this, really. Scheduling sex is awesome. Scheduling sex is important for your relationship, especially if you're not having consistent sex or if you're too busy. The cool thing about it is if you know you're going to have sex that night, you can prepare your body and prepare your vessel and take a bath or go for a run or do breath work or really nourish and take care of yourself so you can activate your body, do yoga, go to the gym, something to nourish your body so you can prepare for the ritual of pleasure with your partner, which is pretty awesome, really. But king worship is all about the king. It's whatever he desires, whatever he wants. Obviously, consent is still a factor. Always, always. If it's a total F no, then, we don't do that. Also have people do a desire list. You can go to my website. I have a free checklist. It's a tantric kink checklist that's on my homepage, and you can get it for free. Go through that. It's really important when it comes to boundaries and consent and really getting clear on what, people are your partner wants to explore or try new things, get spicy. It's actually a really awesome first epic step. That's another thing I have people go through. It's really just this journey to becoming and figuring out what it is that you want and desire by trying new things. And I'll whatever's most alive in the coaching session, I follow that thread and I have a tool. I'm like, hey, I think maybe this is going to be a pleasure work assignment based on what you said, right? To help encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and to try something new. So the king worship's all about him, whatever he wants, whatever his checklist offers, his desires, as long as it's not a no for her, then she gets to create that experience. And that's for him. And it's about his pleasure. And then the queen worship is about her and what she desires and everything in adoration to her and what she wants that night. And scheduling into your calendar, making sure it's fair and equal, and making sure there's no disrespect in that. And that's something that I do have to hold couples through sometimes, is making sure that feels balanced for them. And I also give them affirmations to put around the house based on what's going on, tantra practices, eye gazing practices, breathwork practices, different sex toys to try, different challenges to go to a sex toy store and get a new toy. Depending on where they're at in their relationship and how far they want to go, if they're more kinky, then we'll play with different kinky types toys, like floggers are really fun. Pinwheel, amazing. Even if you're not kinky, if you're sexual, sensual, energetic, any of them, you'll like a pinwheel. It really regulates the nervous system and helps you drop in. And a lot of my couples that come to me are curious to try an open relationship, or they're already in an open relationship dynamic of some sort, and it's messy, or they don't know how to start, or they're afraid, or there's a lot of fear built up, but they're really curious and they want to lean into that. And they want to do it in a really ethical way. I encourage ethics in everything that I do, and being respectful and kind and clear and compassionate and creating more love and beauty. And I'm not interested in creating chaos to the nervous system. So for a couple, they don't want to go to a sex party, that's fine. They don't want to open their marriage, that's fine. I accept monogamy and all sorts of different open dynamics. And that's one of the things is I help couples sometimes get clear on what monogamy is for them, or get clear on what open dynamic is for them, because a lot of times they say, oh, I want to open my marriage. What does that mean? That can be really messy, especially if you've been in a monogamous relationship for years and years and years and years and you're bored and your sex life is stale. I don't think you should be opening your marriage to fix your sex life. You should be hiring a sex coach to fix your sex life, or going to see a therapist if there's a lot of trauma that needs to be cleared first. I also want to clarify the difference between a sex coach and a therapist is therapists deal with trauma that happened in the past. Sex coaches help you. I don't work with couples that are on the verge of a breakup or on the verge of a disaster. I want to work with couples that are like solid and clear and they want to move forward, and they just are like bored and stale and they don't know what to do and they want to spice it up. Working with a sex coach, that's what it's good for. A lot of times when it comes to working with women, I really help them nourish their feminine energy. So many women are in their masculine all the time. They're living from that. It's not sexy. Doesn't create polarity. I help a lot of women soften, surrender, be in the flow, be in harmony, communicate with grace. I'll call them out in a way that they're communicating with their partner that doesn't feel good. I also have a relationship check-in guide that I give my clients as pleasure work assignments. This is amazing. If you have a business and you don't have a business meeting, your business is probably not going to be working so good. If you got a team of people and y'all aren't on the same page, your business isn't going to thrive. And the same happens with your relationship. And the check-in, I took pieces from that Sex and Love Code, the certification I went through. I took pieces of hers and I added to it where I thought was missing. And it's really just this weekly check-in guide where you can sit down with your partner, have a meeting, and plan your relationship. Check in to see where her hormone cycle is to prepare for that, what's going on that week, what obligations, maybe schedule sex in, schedule an exercise together, schedule and pleasure practices together. It's really about being intentional in crafting your relationship and making your pleasure a priority. Most of the time, couples who don't make their pleasure a priority don't have sex. That's really that easy. Like at the beginning of a relationship, it's passion and play and turn on and erotic energy and the honeymoon experience. And then it dies off and life happens and stress happens and obligations and responsibilities. And if you don't make your sex a priority, it's just not going to happen. So I help you do that through a check-in guide, which is like a weekly board meeting for your marriage, which is funny, or your sex life. I help you get clear on what your relationship vision is. Make sure that both people are on the same path moving forward. What is their vision for their sex life? What do they want? What do they want to create? help them regulate emotions, communicate with each other in more healthy ways. We also go through things like lube. Lube is amazing. I don't care how wet you get. Lube is amazing. And make sure you get a clean, non-chemical, yoni-friendly lube. I will do an episode on lube in the future, actually. It would be nice to bring in a sex toy specialist. That would be fun. And reading erotica is really good for women. It's a super fun. One of the hottest things you can do, actually, men, is prepare a beautiful, gorgeous goddess bath for a woman. Rose petals, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's amazing. Goat milk and bubble bath and candles and setting the mood. If she's having a stressful week, go out of your way to create that, and then you can read her erotica while she's in the bathtub, and you'll have her ready to go. Promise, it works. I help people go into kink scenes if that's something that they're turned on to or curious. I'm not gonna go really into that right now, but I help them craft the scenes. I help the men really connect with men's groups and get connected with other men in their lives, because I believe a relationship can't fully thrive if they're not connecting with the same sex and having support and emotional support. A lot of times sexual polarity goes away because they spend too much time together and they're too codependent on each other for each other's happiness. And when a couple, when women can go out and spend time with women and be nourished up by women, and spend time with women, and men can go and be nourished and lit up and supported by men, it's really powerful. I'm a huge fan of men's work and women's work circles and so forth. I actually have a women's circle every other Wednesday in Newport Beach, and we just had one this last week. But if you want to come, it would be really sweet. It's called Womb Wisdom Wednesday, and it's on my website, roseheartsong.com. And you can see the dates there. And if you're in Newport Beach and you're a woman and you want to come to Womb Wisdom Wednesday, it would be absolutely an honor to have you. And what else do I do I go on a journey with them, with different versions with the men. These are examples of things I'm doing. A lot of times people have some of them sprinkled in. I'm actually looking through the homework assignments or how do I say homework? It's pleasure assignments with my clients to go. One of them was to have a talk about a threesome and what that would look like and open up about it. And sometimes people are like, oh, I talked about the threesome. I have to have it. It's sometimes you just talk about things just to express it and to bring it to the surface. And men, just because a woman talks about a threesome, or women, just because it's brought to the table doesn't mean it needs to happen. Just having a conversation is healthy. I also work on forgiveness and resetting the nervous system, regulating the nervous system, talking to family members that maybe have trauma related to it to clear it. I help them communicate. It's really about communication. I'm a communication coach and we just talk about sex. That's my topic. But I really teach you how to communicate more clear and effective and loving and fierce, compassionately with your partner so they can hear you and meet you. And the thing is, if you think you're talking to your husband and you're being clear about it, or you're talking to your wife and you think you're being clear, or you're talking to a woman you want to date or whatever, if you are out there and you believe that you're being clear about something, but you're not getting the results that you want, or they're not hearing you, you're not being clear. And I always go back to this one over and over and over again. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and over again, the same way, and expecting a different result. And my thing is, if you're in a relationship or not in a relationship, by the way, I also work with men, single men, similar technology. I just teach them how to anchor their energy, get clear on their desires, get clear on their boundaries, how to be safe, how to communicate what they want, how to date, so forth. Also with women, teach them how to be in their feminine flow, but also use their voice and communicate their desires and if you're single, I work with single people as well around it. Sometimes people have a lot of sexual trauma that they've worked through, but then they're like, okay, I'm ready to move forward, but I don't really know where to get started and so forth. So I just love working with couples. That's what lights me up the most. And I absolutely love working with women. I love it. And I love working with men. Like, really, I'm just giving you an example of a couple. Sometimes couples are challenging because, especially if they've been together for 15, 20 years, they're in that groove, right? And a lot of times, like the first month or two, I'm kind of like having them focus on themselves, but then also focusing on getting them out of that groove and getting them back like on a different groove, trying a new path. They've been going down the same path over and over and over again for 20 years. It's going to be a solid path. And then I'm like, hey, let's go to this other path that doesn't exist yet, but we're going to make it by trying it over and over and over again. So I'm there to hold your hand. I'm a cheerleader. I can teach you how to flog. I can teach you how to spank. I can teach you kinky things. I can teach you how to breathe erotically with your partner. I can teach you how to eye gaze and slow down and connect. And I have been at sex parties with clients. We don't interact at them. I'm not like taking notes and watching what's happening. I'm not afraid of the erotic energy and the erotic turn on, but that's not in the context of my coaching container. That's separate. Actually, in all honesty, a lot of my clients, I help them figure out how to go to a sex party and talk about it and create the boundaries and the container around it and be really clear about what that looks like and make sure that they do it in a way that's nourishing for them and doesn't create chaos in the relationship. That's another one. And then I'll guide them to different communities that I know of in Los Angeles or San Diego. There is a lot of sex parties, communities popping up. There's a lot of ways to explore. There's lots of workshops to go to. Shibari is a really fun one, or there's so many like nourishing, fun, exploratory things you can do out there. And so that's the journey. And at the beginning, most of the time, there's like this kind of like tension and a little frustration and like irritation. And usually like the woman's compressed and she's not using her voice and she's in her head and she's being controlling, and the man is shut down and like frustrated and like wanting more sex and like feeling like he has to be on tippy toes and not really sure what he's doing wrong. And by the end, I work with clients for a minimum of 3 months. We do weekly sessions, either on Zoom or in person. I love working with them in person. If you're in Orange County, we can work together in person. And they go from that to clear, and the woman is softer. And one of the things I notice a lot is like the jaw is relaxed and the woman's softer and she's in her radiance more and in her flow and more light and feels happier and joyful, and her erotic energy's turned on and she's enjoying sex a lot and really softening into her partner. And the men are like becoming more anchors and holding the woman and not so scared of their emotions and like creating sexual arousal with their partner so that she wants and craves them, and that sexual polarity comes back and that erotic turn on. And some clients, I work for them for 3 months and some 6 months, a year and a half. It really depends on how long they've been together, what kind of exploration they want to go on and how fast their nervous system goes. And a lot of people are like, what? Nervous system. If your nervous system is regulated and you're not resistant to the pleasure work assignment and you're excited about it and you want to do it and it lights you up and you do it and it's fun and you come back and you're like, did it and it was great. What's next? Versus some people are like, oh, that's scary. That's too much. I can't do that right now. Or maybe we need to slow this down. So we slow it down and we go as fast as you want to go and not any faster. I make talking about sex a lot easier and a lot more pleasurable and fun and not so scary and not so shameful. And I help you release shame around sex. And also, a huge one, massive, which we all know, is shame around religious programming. And because I'm doing so much work with the Mary Magdalene Project and the Film Project and studying and understanding and discovering and going in the psyche of religion. And I have a lot of experience with religion. If you don't know, please go to my spirituality episode. I think it's number 2. But yeah, or maybe 3. Anyways, so I love spirituality and I love religion. I've tried a lot of different ones. And it comes with a lot of shame around sexuality. So we can go into that too, and we can help move that and explore that realm, which kind of feels even like it's done sometimes. But yeah, I really want to go with you with where you're at and explore with you and go on a journey with you. And I'm just your cheerleader, cheerleading you on and encouraging you and getting stoked for you and inspired by you. And I cry a lot because my clients have incredible breakthroughs and they are shining and bright and alive and vibrant. I'm like, it's this person. You were doing such a good job. And I don't do the work. I just provide a new path. And you show up and you do the work and you transform your life. And it feels so incredibly amazing. And I feel so grateful for everyone who's trusted with me on this journey. It's such a deeply intimate journey to go on. I know some couples, I know couples intimacy more than anyone in the world besides them. I get the privilege and the honor to go into their world and to see that version of them and to be an encouragement and really have each person's back. I'm fiercely on the man's team, I'm fiercely on the woman's team, and I'm fiercely on the relationships team. And really about creating that passion, that play, and that spark. And that's going to be it for this evening. It is towards the end of the hour. Incredibly grateful for you guys getting on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for going on this taboo journey with me. Thank you for playing with me. Thank you for listening to the show. The show wouldn't matter. It would just be me talking to myself if it wasn't for you. So I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much. And I hope you have the most beautiful evening. Thank you, KXFM, Laguna's community radio, for having me on here. This is Rose Heartsong, and you have been listening to Follow Your Heartsong, a show about sex, spirituality, and holistic health. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful evening, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night. You felt that, didn't you? Let it sink in, take what you need, leave the rest, and always trust yourself. If this spoke to you, please follow, like, and share. That helps the message reach those who need it. Stay wild, stay free, and keep following